Hi, welcome to Box on the Box Rock and Celluloid. I'm Edward Box, so I'm going to be reviewing Def Leppard's new release, Diamond Star Halos. So this came out last Friday. I actually was there at the record shop when my wife bought it physically, which we don't do a lot of now. She's a huge Def Leppard fan. So I've been giving it a few spins. I would have dropped this review sooner, but I was away over the weekend, so just trying to catch up now. So sort of potted history of Def Leppard. On Through the Night, really good new album, patchy in places, but a lot of fans really like it. High and Dry, for a lot of people, the band's classic, sort of hard rock album. Then Pyromania, their first forays into pop metal / hair metal, kind of inventing a genre. Really good record, really strong. And then Hysteria, the huge seller, even bigger than Pyromania, but controversial with original fans because effectively it's more like a pop album with some rock influence and metal influence. Then, how do you follow that? They did it with Adrenalize, 2 or 3 really good tracks on that, but a lot of filler. And then they got caught up in the grunge thing, had to do slang, which didn't really work. Then tried to get back to the classic Leopard sound with the Euphoria album, which produced 2 really great tracks in Promises and Paper Sun. Both of them, that was a bit patchy. Then, for many people in the noughties, it hasn't been that great for the band album-wise. They released X, which is their weakest album, about 15 tracks, and maybe 2 or 3 really good tracks on it. A lot of co-writes, trying to do the Bon Jovi thing. I think, It's My Life, the success that had. Then songs from the Sparkle Lounge, some good tunes on this album, starts strong, but just a bit patchy. It feels like a collection of songs rather than a cohesive album. And the self-titled album from 2015 was an attempt to get more cohesion. Probably suffers from having too many tracks. I think there's 15 or 14, and having some tracks that feel a bit unfinished. But having said that, there is kind of 6 really good tracks on that album. It's probably the best sounding record, a bit heavier. So this kind of picks up from that album. I feel like Def Leppard, what they need to do for me is just kind of have less songs. And get, write the amount of songs they're doing, but just pare it back a bit just to get the quality across the whole album. I think the problem is now in the streaming era, in the CD era, it was like, right, we've got 7 8 minutes, let's fill it with tracks and give people value for money, which was just a lot of filler. Now the problem is what money there is in streaming is limited, so the more tracks you've got to stream, the more versions, the better. So that's the case with this. The Digipack version of this is 17 tracks and it has a couple of different mixes. I wouldn't bother with this. The packaging's really not that great. It's a different colour. So if you want to get the album physically, buy the dual case and that'll be fine. So the album starts off with one of the strongest tracks, maybe the strongest track. It's Take What You Want. It's got a really cool intro. A little bit like Rock Till You Drop, and then it comes a really heavy drop D riff, probably the heaviest song the band had done. Almost a bit heavy metal. Yes. Written by Charlie and Rick Savage. It's 4 minutes 14. I really like this track. It's a strong, hard rocking track. It's really good. Next track's Kick. This is a single. I don't like this as much, but I think Die Leppard fans will like it. It's got the kind of glam rock thing going on that they like to touch base with, like Come On and tracks like that. It's written by Phil Conley, like a Dave Bassett. Again, it's 3 minutes 42, under 4 minutes, good arrangement. The next track, Fire It Up, again, is Phil Conley with a co-writer, so Phil, I'm guessing, must have been out in the States just writing alone. This is 3:19. This has got the classic kind of Def Leppard rappy, pour your some sugar on me thing. I actually prefer this track to Kick. But these 3 tracks that, Die Leppard fans I think alike, but, there's still that argument that old school fans won't come back to the band. This album is very much for people who've got into Def Leppard on Pyromania, Hysteria. If you're into Def Leppard on Through the Night and High and Dry, you probably left the church by now, I would say. They got this guitar. This is a ballad. Again, Phil Collin co-writing with a guy called CJ Vaniston. Going for the country rock thing here. This actually works really well. This could do well in Nashville. And they've got Alison Krauss on vocals of Robert Plant and Alison Krauss fame. And the vocal harmonies sound great on this. There's just something about that country twang. And they do a great country style harmony. She does it a third above with Joe, and it blends really well. Again, 3 minutes 50. So yeah, kind of a bit of a wet ballad for me, but it is a good song and you can't deny the quality of this. Then you've got SOS Emergency, and this is another strong track, typical Leppard track, not as good as the first three, but still a good track. This is Elliot, Joe and Phil Collins, 3 minutes 25. This kind of sounds a bit like a leftover track from the Euphoria album, a bit like Promises, and it's a good tune. Okay, so that's like the first 5 tracks, really strong opening. Then things start to get a bit more uncertain. I'll just look at my notes. So we've got Liquid Dust next, and initially I quite like this, but I was listening to it in the car today. And my wife doesn't like it, and she pointed out it's just quite kind of dull, the chorus. I can see it doesn't have that lift. There's a track on the last album, Energize, and that suffers from the same problem. You know, you've got this slow tempo and the chorus doesn't quite lift. So some interesting production notes on this. They're kind of going for a psychedelic thing, but it just doesn't quite get going for me. Nothing wrong with the arrangement, 401. Next track, You Rock Me, spell U-R-O-K and me, M-I. So fairly immature title. This is catchy initially, it's got a really good groove. Kind of big, typical Def Leppard chorus with a layered backing vocals, but suffers from a kind of middle section of lax focus, trying to pour some sugar on me kind of vibe, then spins back out into a really big chorus, but doesn't quite work again. It feels like a kind of when they're on Adrenalize, when they're trying to get the magic again with Hysteria, but not quite pulling it off. This is written by Phil Collins, 3 minutes 33. Next track, Goodbye for Good This Time. This is an interesting track, sort of more experimental. This has got a really good string arrangement on it, so they've used a proper string section, and there's a nice Lydian tonality on the strings, on the bridges on this, going to Mixolydian mode for those who are musos. Whenever you do Lydian mode, use that modal sound with strings, you always get a kind of science fiction type sound. It's very popular with sci-fi music, and not that this is about science fiction, but it gives it that vibe. There's a really nice nylon string guitar solo by Phil Collins on this, really good. Guitar solos up to this point are strong, and they're all the way through. Then we've got All We Need. This is a bit meh. This is a track the album doesn't need. It's kind of, it's got a little bit of a U2 vibe on the beat and on the guitars. I just don't feel it needs. It's a Phil Collins Jelly song, 4 minutes 46, a bit long. The album doesn't need this track to me. Then you got Open Your Eyes. This is a slow groove, again going for the more psychedelic thing. Really big chorus. This is a Phil Collins Jelly song. I really like this track. Yeah, great BVs on this. It's big. It's kind of more epic. 4 minutes 19 works really well. Great guitars. Really like it. And then there's Give Me a Kiss, which is track 11. This is cheesy, but it's really catchy. The chorus goes, Give me a kiss that rocks. Yeah, it's one for the fans. You know, the fans will enjoy this. It is a cheesy lyric. It is a bit immature, but it's what Def Leppard do well. 3 minutes 12. It's punchy, and I enjoyed it. Then track 12 is Angels Can't Help You Now. It's written by Charlie. It's 4 minutes 19. Now this has Mike Garson on piano. I think he played the piano on Life on Mars, or certainly some David Bowie stuff. It works really well. His piano's got a lovely flourish at the end, where I think he uses the whole tone scale, again going muso, very Debussy, very expressionist, or impressionist, as we should say, from that period. I like this track. I give it 6 out of 10. I don't love it, but it's interesting. The band, you know, there's quite a few tracks down where the band are stretching out like this, Open Your Eyes, and the final track, Liquid Dust, and so on, trying to do something different with the sound. Next track's Lifeless. Again, this is Elliot Collins. Again, Alison Krauss does great backing vocals on this. I really like the sound of her voice. It works really well. I'm not keen on the track. Again, this is the one with the U2 vibe. Apologies, I made a mistake before. Yeah, it just feels a bit light. It just feels like the album doesn't need this. Next track, Unbreakable. This is written by Joe Elliott. This has got a really strong chorus. It's catchy. It's not a top track, but it's another strong track. I like this. And then the album finishes with a Rick Savage composition just on his own. So Rick Savage wrote a song called Love on the Songs from the Sparkle Lounge album, which is probably the best track on the album. This is good. It's kind of epic. It's got that Beatles, the track off Abbey Road. You know, I can't remember the title, apologies, but it's that kind of riff, big vocals, big epic soloing at the end, I think from Phil Collins, and a good fade out, a good epic track. So the album's kind of, for me, it's sort of a mixed bag. I think you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really solid tracks, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 other, good tracks that are, they're not fillers, they're good songs. It just needed a bit of trimming on this. There's certainly, you could lose 2 or 3 tracks. It's kind of like Black Ice, AC/DC, although that's a stronger record where you got 15 tracks, but you had 11 to 12 would be better. Production-wise, it's good. The guitar's a lot more dirty than Def Leppard usually go for. Def Leppard are kind of renowned for this clean kind of Rockman distortion from the 80s. I like the Def Leppard guitar processing, but this is kind of dirtier. This gives it a kind of rawer sound, particularly on something like Take What You Want. I don't like the drum sound. It's kind of a bit fuddy. I don't know why they haven't, obviously I'm guessing Rick Allen using an electronic kit, but you could sample, take a sample from any kind of cool big rock drum sound. So I wasn't into that. Vocals are good as usual. I think Joel is really good vocal performance on this album. He's dropping, he's dropping his register a bit. He's not going for the high stuff anymore. But there's a nice rasp to his vocals. There's sometimes when his vocals are kind of quite exposed and they sound good. He's got a good tone. People knock him as a singer, but he's worked very hard as a singer to get better. His jump from On Through the Night to Pyromania is quite extraordinary when you consider what he has to do on that album. Guitars are great. The other criticism is, again, Viv Campbell's just kind of left out of the script a bit. He's no writing on this. He does a few trade-offs with Phil Collins. They've actually got the lead breaks broken down, which is quite strange. I don't know why they've done that. They haven't normally done it before. But I've always felt like, it's Phil Collins' gig, Def Leppard, but he's hogging the light. And I think Phil Collins is a great player. But he's hogging the light from a player who was actually the superior player back in 83. Back in 83, 84, Viv Campbell was rated in the top dozen or so metal players, the new breed. And Phil Collins wasn't. Phil Collins kind of improved his chops and got better, particularly by the time of the Adrenalize album. I really like what Phil Collins does. I love his strong vibrato, strong tone. Then Viv Campbell kind of, seemed to kind of lose interest in that kind of playing, but he does a nice kind of Robbo style leads. And it'd be nice to hear him more, but I haven't looked at the notes carefully to sort of say what the percentage of solos is. So that's it. Mark out of 10. I think fans will kind of feel this is a 7 to an 8 out of 10, 7.5. For me, it's a 6.5. I'm not a big Def Leppard fan, but I do like some of their songs. They've got their sound, and there's a place for sort of pop choruses in metal and hard rock. I still wish they would come out and say that they're hard rock at least. Anyway, this review, that's Diamond Star Halos, came out Friday. Check it out. Thanks very much.